House Telvanni. Power enacted on will. This statement will make a whole lot more sense as we talk about this crazy faction. So, this is a unique faction of mages in the Elder Scrolls universe that you all voted for me to cover. For those who are new to Elder Scrolls, I think this video will serve as a great entry into the factions and series as a whole. For those not new, this will serve as a great mind exploration of what does it mean to be a Telvanni. So first off, what is the House Telvanni? House Telvanni, as stated, are mages. Now, how does that contrast to other mage groups? Well, to the Telvanni, magic is a pathway of exerting your will, which to them is the only way that you can honor your ancestors. You see a lake and hate getting your clothes wet when you're near it? Enchant your boots to water walk. Or make the surface of the lake permanently frozen. Or make it where the water evaporates entirely from a single fire tornado. These are the measures the Telvanni would take. Now, when we're saying Telvanni, we're kind of not really talking about the entire house or the organization. We're kind of simply talking about just individuals that make up this organization. To the Telvanni, each wizard is allowed to conduct their own business and studies on their own terms. There are no restrictions in the Telvanni. They believe the purest form of practicing magic is unrestricted. This means that necromancy, blood magic, poison spells, the house fully supports all of these magics that many in the world would view as tainted or untrustworthy. Due to this, the Telvanni clash with other mage organizations, like the Mages Guild, which believe that magic should be studied cautiously in controlled environments with no dark magic practices allowed, or the College of Winterhold, which believes that magic should be practiced by first mastering safety. To the Telvanni, they do not care what lines you cross, they do not care what cultural customs that you practice. They're simply around to support your magical endeavors that will inevitably strengthen them as a whole. A good thing for the lonely wizard who wishes to unlock the secrets of death in his tall tower. In their organization, the Telvanni practice might makes right. To them, the strongest mage is the rightest mage. If two mages disagree as to the effectiveness of the use of levitation magic, and one mage kills the other, then the one who killed the mage was probably correct. This is how the Telvanni view debates among scholars and colleagues. If you disagree with me or challenge my research, then face me in magical combat and watch as I disintegrate you with your thesis papers. Or you slice my throat as I sleep with your beautiful invisible dagger, proving that you're correct. Not only is a duel between mages a matter of scholarly debate, it is also the only way of advancement of certain positions. In the Telvanni, if you kill a mage, you get all of his belongings, including his rank. If I am a small oathman who kills a magister, then I can inherit his tower, his studies, his slaves, everything. I even rise in rank to magister. Of course, the big caveat is that the person has to be a member of the house. The Telvanni don't just give out other people's property to strangers. Something that's also interesting is that there is another way that ranks can be created in the Telvanni, and that's through expansion. We see this with Morrowind. So if Telvanni take over a huge swath of land, obviously the magisters that they have cannot govern this much land. So now there are technically job openings, but they only give it out to people with really high intelligence and really high willpower who are really good practitioners of magic. So if you've been sitting there, a loyal apprentice for many, many years, but you know you can never beat your master in a fight, because after all, you're just some enchanter who's really, really good. And all of a sudden you hear that they just conquered a lot of territory or that they're trying to colonize somewhere. You can speak to the council and they may actually say, you know what? You're no longer the apprentice of this guy. You're now a magister in your own right. And here's the land that we're going to give you. Now, speaking about people, let's talk about that. How do the Telvanni interact with those outside their organization? Simple. No. No interaction at all. The Telvanni typically prefer their own isolationist projects and goals, whether that is power grabbing, attaining the highest rank, or that's simply achieving some magical study that shows off their power. The most you will see of Telvanni interacting with people is through the mouths. The mouth is a special rank of Telvanni where the person speaks on behalf of their assigned magister. Usually the mouth functions as a clerk, where they keep check on stock and procures resources their magister requires, whether that is slaves, mercenaries, permits, even apprentices. The mouth procures it all. If you ever meet a Telvanni mage who is hiring for a job or simply wants to trade, more than likely you're actually speaking to a mouth. The only thing is that while a mouth is friendly and pleasant, don't get it twisted. They are still powerful mages and would like nothing more than to rise to the top where they don't have to deal with people like you anymore. If anything, a mouth is given a great powerful tool against their own magisters, conveniently buying food that their master is allergic to, or purchasing a house slave that is actually a trained Khajiit assassin. These methods are ways of elevating one's position from mouth to magister. While we discuss the realms of politics, let's kind of discuss how the Telvanni handle other organizations. As a whole, the house stays silent or apathetic to others. But let's say that they're hostile, like the Mages Guild. Both provide services that overlap, like enchanting, potion brewing, etc. If the Telvanni wanted to destroy this group, they wouldn't need to openly declare war. In fact, most of the time the Telvanni do not declare war on anyone. They just simply have their troops deployed, and the reason why is that their lower members of their house will do this for them. If the Mages Guild is cutting into Telvanni profits, the lower ranked Oathmen are being cut out of their profits as well, being unable to feed themselves, unable to study their own magic, as the Mages Guild is providing probably a better product. There is nothing stopping the Telvanni Oathmen from charging into the Mages Guild and just killing all of them, and then claiming that this burned building is now their property. And unfortunately, the Imperials would have to bow down to the Telvanni, as the house as a whole would swoop in and say, hey, that's our customs, he won the land fair and square, that building is now under our ownership. So to take this would be to take it from us. And this is due to the treaty signed where each house can conduct businesses as they see fit. And unfortunately, House Telvanni has a might makes right policy. So, as I said, if a bunch of Telvanni mages come into a city and they just beat everyone's ass and they say, this land is now ours, the Imperial Guard and the Imperial Legion have to bow down to that because that's technically what they signed under the treaty, and they're respecting this cultural tradition. So that's how the Telvanni function. Individuals take actions into their own hands, and the house swoops in to protect them as a unified front. Only issues that arise is when the person makes more trouble than what they are worth. In Morrowind, we get a few examples of both situations, one where Telvanni is disrupting an ebony mine. If they succeed, then the 5 members can claim the mine shaft for the house. But if they cause such a discourse that they piss off the Empire, then the house can simply say, hey, these are outlaws, deal with them how you wish. Which in the Fighters Guild, that's pretty much exactly what happens. You swoop in, find the 5 troublemakers, and easily beat their asses in the Caldera Mining Company, as this company was hugely important to House Halalu and to the Imperial Legion. So for the Telvanni, it's easier just to lose 5 lower ranked men and achieve peace, rather than trying to help them in any way, shape, or form, because this would just cause Halalu mercenaries and Imperial delegates to start hounding their council. As you can see, the Telvanni aid you depending on what you do for them. If you did secure a mine shaft with ebony quality ore, they would be overjoyed in providing you with slaves at a huge discount and working out deals for their magisters to get a portion of that ebony for their own studies. If you're struggling and you can't pull off any success, the Telvanni won't help you and leave you stranded. And if you somehow survive, don't expect the mouths will be willing to hire you anytime soon, as you have cost the magisters quite a bit of trouble. Despite all this fun, being a Telvanni is a life of constant insanity. The very foundations of a healthy psyche start with the necessities: food, water, and shelter. To be a Telvanni, while incredibly powerful and wealthy, you cannot rely upon food and water being poisoned, or their own safety of their bed from being magically enchanted to kill them when they sleep. To be a Telvanni is to be subjected to constant plots and ploys that either see you dead in a ditch, Or you turn around and all your power that you've gained throughout the years has been siphoned away and stolen. As such, the heads of the Telvanni, the longest living members, they tend to be paranoid and stressed or insane beyond measure. One beautiful quest in the Telvanni is that there's a magister who wants a new dress, and she will pay you 1,000 gold for a simple delivery. That's a lot of money for just a delivery job, okay? But when you come to her house, she demands that someone wears the dress first, because she doesn't know whether you or someone else enchanted the dress to kill whoever wears it. From here, you can wear the dress and prove to her that it's safe. But now she'll scream at you that you wore her dress, that you ruined it, and she'll cast a spell stripping away your strength, leaving you stuck in place as you're unable to lift up your hand as she stabs you to death from ruining the dress. Or you can have her Khajiit slave wear the dress, where she kills the slave for getting its nasty fur on her new dress, and she pays you 1,000 gold and tells you to get the fuck out before she kills you. As you can see, the Telvanni are not to be trusted, and they cannot trust each other. If they work together, it's usually an act of desperation to fight a common foe, or it's a plot that their goals temporarily align, so they work to it until completion, and then they go back to killing each other. This can be other things like, let's say I'm an enchanter for the Telvanni, and I'm uncovering a way to make petty soul gems give more oomph, more power, than a grand soul gem. And my competitor, he only works with grand soul gems, and he's been doing this much longer than I have, so he sees me as an upstart, and the moment I'm researching, he can work with another enchanter where they both work together to steal my research, and then that way they both profit off of it. But then the moment that they steal the research, they start fighting with each other over who gets to keep the research, because now they're both competitors with each other, and they just set me back by 100 years. This is pretty common for the Telvanni. Now, religion. What religion would you think the Telvanni worship? The other noble houses of Morrowind worship the Tribunal, as they are literally living gods. The Ashlander Dark Elves worship the good Daedra. So, what do you think the Telvanni worship? If you said the Tribunal, you're kind of partially wrong. You see, the Telvanni, being incredible mages, do have individuals in their ranks that are over 4,000 years old, putting them older than the very Tribunal itself. One individual that everyone loves is Divith Fire. I may be mispronouncing his name, but hey, Morrowind's a Wikipedia game, so I'm just going to pronounce it like that. I know Elder Scrolls Online exists, I don't care. Divith Fire is a 4,000-year-old magister who discovered immortality rather easily and cloned himself as a group of women that he is married to as his wives, and spends the eternity that he has collecting oddities, like the last living Dwemer and victims of the Corpus disease. Due to this, the Telvanni are kind of whimsical in their beliefs. They don't care what god you worship, as to them they feel that any mage could become a god if they so wished, if they exerted their will upon the world. So godhood to them is merely a stepping stone for those who have power to achieve it. And after all, they do have mages that are older than your religion itself. Can you imagine if you had a guy who was older than Christianity, and he's sitting there as some Celtic believer? It'd be very hard to argue with him, because he's seen your religion from start to finish. He knows what your religion is. It's kind of interesting. But let's kind of get back to Divith Fire, a 4,000-year-old wizard with immense power, capable of creating his own realm of oblivion if he so wished. Why isn't he, and many of the other wizards like him in the Telvanni, why aren't they the leaders of the house? The answer is rather interesting, and it is my own opinion of this matter. To be powerful and to be political are two entirely different goals. There is power in magic and there is power in politics, but one cannot establish themselves both at the same time. As such, the Telvanni we see on the Council of Mages and the Archmagister himself are all inferior mages. This is, of course, in comparison to the Telvanni who are strictly devoted to magic. Now, they're still awesome. They are still good mages after all. Like when you use the player with the House Telvanni, they literally give you the best enchanted gear in the game as payment for doing chores for them. Like killing a slave revolt, they give you a ring that literally explodes an area into pure fire or pure poison. But in the grand scheme of things, the isolated wizards of the Telvanni are proven to be stronger, older, and wiser than the council, yet have no ambition in being part of the constant distractions the politics brings. As such, the greatest threat the Telvanni possess is not their archmage, no. It's actually their lonely agent wizards who possess their own manors and mushroom towers. If you were to mess with the Telvanni, these would be the guys that you would have to watch out for. Not the council of the house, but the old wizard who's lived long enough to see the very house itself become created. These would be the guys that you would have to watch out for. And when it comes to who makes up the council, it could be anything. It could be a bunch of dark elves. It could even be a bunch of Argonians. The Telvanni do not discriminate in their recruiting practices. They don't discriminate in who they work with. They view power as power. They do not care. To them, if you're some goblin who's got a staff that has a bunch of human skulls on it and you're able to summon a giant thunderstorm and you speak literally, they'll say, hey, yeah, sure, you're part of our house now. Come join us. And they'll willingly let you grow and they'll let you, keep working with your goblin tribe and stuff. The Telvanni don't care. That being said, how do they view certain things like vampires? The Telvanni, it depends on the magister. Some Telvanni view vampires as interesting subjects to study. Other Telvanni, they just don't care. And that's really all you're going to get at them. They're the only faction that openly recruits vampires. Now, you may say, well, isn't that kind of extreme? Kinda, but not really. I mean, one of the interesting things about the Telvanni is that they view vampires as very magical beings. As such, they can do stuff for the house, and their magic, like their blood magic, is something that they can benefit from, especially if they can steal its secrets away from the vampires. As I said, Telvanni are all about plots and ploys, so it's totally possible that here you are, a vampire, joining the group, and then you're using your blood magic to rise through the ranks really fast. But then it turns out every mage that you kill, they leave notes for the other mages saying, hey, I think this is how his blood magic works. And before you know it, you have a non-vampire Telvanni mage who's older than you. He's like 2,000 years old. And he uses your own blood magic, and he easily casts away your magic and just sucks the vampirism right out of you. And he goes, yeah, vampirism's pretty crap. This magic's not as good as my other magic. I don't know why I imitated your practices. And then he gives you back your vampirism. This is totally the way Telvanni work, and it's so funny. In fact, some of their mages kind of insult you if you're a vampire. They say, oh, you took the easy way out to being immortal. That's kind of pathetic. And that's totally the way they are. They view it as a cheapskate way. They view that the purest way you could have achieved immortality was through your own hands. And here you are, you got a disease, and now all of a sudden you achieve that goal. That's pathetic. That's nothing. So Telvanni are just very fascinating in that regard. Overall, how do the Telvanni function as a society is rather interesting. I do wish that we saw more of them. Unfortunately, in Skyrim, we see that apparently House Telvanni is doing okay somehow. I don't deny it. It makes sense to me that the Telvanni would survive the Red Year. And after all, when we read excerpts in Skyrim about what happened in Morrowind after the volcano exploded, destroying much of the land, House Redoran seems to be in power, and they seem to be the main house that's in control. The only house that lost a seat was House Halalu, but Telvanni, no one really knows what happens to them. But the fact that only House Halalu lost a seat on the council tells me that House Telvanni still has a seat, therefore they're still powerful, they're still capable of doing things. And then we do meet one Telvanni member, but he's not exactly very trustworthy, so I don't feel like really talking about him, because he kind of prattles on about a bunch of random shit. But it does make sense to me that here's these mages that are capable of literally defying reality. And a giant volcano erupts. The mages probably just sighed and said, Time to cast a fire shield on my entire settlement. This is going to set me back in my research because I really wanted to study the alchemical ingredients that I was about to mix, but whatever. And then you see them just cast a giant fucking firewall that just blocks the lava from touching their lands. I could totally see that. The Telvanni are not altruistic people. They don't really care to help others. They may brag about it. One of Vivek's lessons that he teaches in his religion was a Telvanni mage bragging about how he created a potion that could cure any disease in the world. And then Vivek simply said, well, obviously not, because it didn't cure you of your arrogance. This is the thing with the Telvanni. If they ever do a noble goal, it's usually for their own pride and enjoyment. It's for their own bragging, their own boast rights. To be a Telvanni, you could be a good Telvanni. You could say, I don't practice slavery. I don't practice a bunch of shit. I just simply, I'm just a good wizard who just wants to be left alone. That's totally fine. That's totally in your prerogative. You could be the wizard who never plots to kill and overthrow somebody. You just simply have assassins come into your bedroom and then you just cast telekinesis and throw their ass out the window and watch them fall to death. You could be that guy. More power to you. But the bottom line is that when you play the Telvanni, you are uncaring. You just don't care. You look at someone and you just simply say, okay, can I use you? Yes, no. Okay. And then just move on. And even if you can use them, you don't necessarily grow attachments to them. Just because someone is useful doesn't mean that they're now all of a sudden the highest, most valued tool in your arsenal. Not really. If they're useful to you, then it has to be why. If they're useful to you because they're really powerful in a certain magical capability, you're going to view them as a bit of a rival, as a threat. So you're going to want to curtail them as best you can. Like, you're going to have them study under you, but you're not really letting them study. You just keep hassling them with busy work, so that way they never study to become your rival. Or you have them study under you, but the whole time you study what makes them so good at this magic, and then you steal it from them. And then you discard them. You just throw them away. You give them an impossible task. Like, hey, mage, you've been doing really, really well. And to honor this, I will allow you to become a magister if you take over this fort owned by House Redoran. Yeah, I totally believe you. I think you can totally do it. Alright, good. Now that he's out of the fucking tower, he's not allowed back here until he does this job. He's probably going to die like 6 different ways, but that's fine. Just let him fucking die. This is the way the Telvanni work, and I love it. Because they're not good guys, they're not bad guys, they're just selfish. They're arrogant. They have good arguments for why they exist. They have good arguments for why they practice the way they preach. There's never a time where you can ask a Telvanni, hey, why did you do something? And his answer is, because I can. He could. They believe in might makes right. They could absolutely say that. But they're scholars. So you can ask them, hey, why'd you kill that slave? They won't tell you because I can. They'll tell you, well, he had no use to me and I was kind of running out of food. Just had to get rid of something. Didn't even have to say that. He could have just said, I had the power. I didn't wish him to be around. I could have done it. But no, the Telvanni are scholars. They like to explain their actions. They're egotistical. They think that everything they do is just pure gold that everyone should study. Besides that, this has been Freezer 700. I am out. I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, like, comment, subscribe if you haven't. And as always, see you next time.